Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Are you ready?
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Now broadcasting live from the After Hours AM studio, Joel Sturgis and Eric Olson.
Welcome to After Hours AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me.
Eric Olson.
Good evening, Eric. How the heck are you?
I am doing okay.
Just
As we mentioned,
okay?
Well, no, I'm doing all right. I'm doing good. I'm feeling good because I'm feeling a sense of accomplishment.
Oh, you are?
Instead of going somewhere and doing something fun over spring break, I've been filing those CDs like a deranged mofo. Boy, have I filed a lot of CDs.
So
CDs.
So you've had a staycation and just filed CDs?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't only filed CDs. I've rearranged all kinds of things and moved things there.
Gotcha.
And purged a lot of things. But finally, for the first time since we moved the CDs, and it was a multi-step process, we had the CDs at my office, which was at my parents' house. Well, we had to sell my parents' house now. Well, it's almost 2 years ago.
It's been a while.
June 1st of 17, so almost getting closer to 2 years ago. So we had to sell it. So we had to clear everything out of there really fast. And it was a big house stuffed full, I say. So not only of my parents' stuff, but other family, previous generations, they were storing stuff.
Gotcha.
They became the repositories, and then I had my office.
It was
My
like a
office.
museum, is what it was.
It was a lot like a museum. And my office was there as well. So we had to move all my CDs over here. So for the first time since we began that process, I finally have them all organized, up, visible, in order. Nothing's hidden. Nothing's in boxes. I know what I have. I have integrated my father's CD collection as well, which was kind of fun. Different taste, but not – there was a fair amount of crossover. I was a little surprised how much crossover there was. So I was able to trade those in for new CDs. Woo!
All right. You know, I don't know I'm more shocked at that you actually did that or that you still have CDs. No one has CDs anymore.
Oh, everyone has CDs.
Yeah, you hear them talk about it. CDs are dead. I've heard that a million times. CDs are on their way out.
Sure. Well, obviously
CDs
they
are
are. Obviously they are, market-wise speaking, relatively, on their way out. Obviously. People have switched over, you know, a small but not insignificant percentage are totally digging and have revived vinyl, but that's still relatively
It's
niche.
a small group of people, really, in the grand scheme of things.
It's relatively small, but it's not insignificant. It has grown. But everyone else pretty much is doing the digital. But as I've said, and we were talking about this last night, what happens when the zombie apocalypse or just a major power outage, you know, whatever, some sort of sunspot, something that takes out the power grid, worse still, takes out the internet, okay? So then what do? You are SOL if you don't have physical media. I have physical media. I have thousands of books. I have 20,000 plus CDs.
Okay.
I have, I forget, I think 2,000 DVDs, Blu-rays, and now 4Ks.
So, if the end does come, the apocalypse arises, and we lose power, how are you going to listen to those CDs anyway?
Solar pan.
Or you do like they did on Shaun of the Dead and use them as weapons and throw them at the zombies.
Well, that would be vinyl because that's larger and more
that is
lethal.
It would be. It would be.
Yes. So seriously, Either, well, I mean, ultimately comes from the battery, but yeah, solar panels. We are heading that way. It is our goal. My son graduates from high school in 3+ years, about 3.5 years. Okay, in those 3.5 years, we are preparing ourselves, and then we are going to move. After that, we are going to move to somewhere, probably fairly out in the country, so we can get some land, so we have a little space, so we can do a little bit of growing, gardening. I'm not really interested in being a farmer, but certainly a substantial garden is something that's very helpful under any circumstances.
You're moving to Colorado, aren't you? You talk about
Probably
farming,
not.
huh? We know you're going with that.
No, we're probably going to either end up maybe stay in Ohio, but southern Ohio possibly, or New England. We'll see. But it's almost less important where we end up than the circumstances that we're looking for. So we are truly we want to be self-sustaining as much as possible without going crazy.
Are you becoming a prepper?
A little bit, but not really.
You're becoming a me. See, I'm a prepper to some extent.
A little bit. A little bit.
And the 3 Bs.
It only makes sense to be self-sustaining, at least for a time. If you can take care of yourself for a month, well, that's pretty good.
Well, remember the 3 Bs. Bullets, beans, and bandages. And you'll be all right.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. I don't know we'll exactly go that route. But,
well, not the bullets for killing people, but for hunting. If something were to actually happen.
Absolutely makes sense.
But anyhow, yeah, I have been a bit of a prepper for years now. And so I do have a stockpile of things just in case. But see, I live in a very, very harsh winter area. You know what I mean? Where it's really, a certain death is outside your door at some points during the winter. So you got to really be kind of prepared in case that power outage does come or what have you, to be maybe trapped for 4 or 5 days.
Absolutely. That's the idea. I used to totally poo-poo it. I thought it was silly. I thought it was paranoid. I now realize that, first of all, I'm less sanguine about the political situation and realize upheaval really is a possibility. So that's number one. Number two, much more likely than that, however, would be something like I was saying earlier, like a sunspot, an EMT, something that takes out the power grid, something that takes out the internet, right? So you gotta be, to a certain extent, self-sustaining. Plus, it's much cheaper if you have if you have your own. Once you buy the equipment, the solar panels and the equipment needed to store it and transfer it. Turn it into electricity. Then it's free from then on.
That is true. Just make sure when you're doing that and you're building that, put your batteries in a Faraday cage, and you'll be all right.
There you go. So there's that. Then we want to find a source of our own source of fresh water. Because if you have power and you have water, you got it made.
You do. You really do.
You can find food. You can hunt for food. You can forage for food. Yes, we will certainly be storing some food, but we want to be able to grow some food, reasonable amount. No big deal, but a reasonable amount.
Eric, it sounds like you and the missus have planned this out quite thoroughly and really thought about this.
She has. That is for sure.
So question for you, though.
Yes.
Let's just say society does break down. Let's just say it is the upheaval part, not a natural disaster, but even that would cause people to get desperate quite quickly. What's your plan for defense? To keep those that would come taking what you have, because that's a real possibility.
It's a real possibility. I believe that distance is your friend. So I don't want to be too far out. I'm not someone who probably will be happy way, 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 way far away from civilization.
Sure.
But a reasonable distance where you have some land, you have your own land. I am assuming that will be enough to insulate us. Now, Dawn is pretty serious. She keeps talking about, well, by the time, again, it's 3.5 years from now, or somewhere around that ballpark. It's not less than 3.5 years from now, put it that way. In that time, she's talking about wanting to learn how to shoot and everything. So, I mean, maybe we'll end up with a gun. I don't know. I've been so anti-gun my whole life.
I know you have. I really understand where you're coming from. But now there's a huge difference between a hunting rifle that you would use to gather food versus an assault rifle.
Of course.
One is a tool where one is viewed as more of a weapon of destruction. So, I think that you would be more suited towards a hunting rifle way before you would be an assault-style rifle.
Well, sure. Yes, absolutely. I am not opposed philosophically to hunting. I understand. Look, if you eat meat, how can you be opposed to hunting? It's not logical. You have to be consistent. I have to be consistent. I am not a vegetarian. I do eat meat. So why it's not reasonable for me to be opposed to hunting? It's just not something I've ever done, that's all.
Yeah.
I just really wasn't exposed to it.
Well, you don't worry. I got some tips and tricks for you once you guys start getting deeper into it. Don't you worry.
I have no doubt about that.
I will absolutely help you guys out. Anyone else that's listening, I've been doing it for quite a while. Make the food saver your best friend, but make sure you use Mylar bags when you pack your food. That's a big one because what happens with the food saver bags, they break down over time, or Mylar will not. That will stay good. And just little, more of that kind of stuff because basically you want to build yourself a stockpile of food that will never go bad.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And again, I'm not super worried about doing a lot of stockpiling of food in particular. Yes, some, of course, some, but I'm not looking to do a vast amount. I'm more interested in being able to grow our own.
Well, then, and can it
because it's fresh.
Yeah, and you guys could can it then.
And to be able to forage and whatnot. And of course, hunting would be a part of that. That's absolutely reasonable under the circumstances.
Exactly. But yeah, that is there's a lot of great resources out there that can help you guys on your journey as well. A lot of my friends have gone to solar generators and they've gone that route. Guys that I know, and they say that's a better option than having doing the solar straight up solar panels. But that's something you have to research and find out what fits best for your needs.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting alternative. I did not know there were solar powered generators. That makes sense. Perfect sense.
There are, and so it's a whole lot of stuff out there. Books, TV shows, you name it out there about prepping. But one thing I did watch, we discussed a little bit before we came on air, there was the newest movie on Netflix that's chronicling the Motley Crue, what they were, and I guess what they are. I'm not sure. I don't think they're together anymore, called The Dirt. Well, it was really described as this. I'm drunk, I'm known. I'm drunk, I'm someone. I'm drunk, oh crap, I'm known again.
It's funny. We watched... I guess 2/3 of it. We got to the point where I think it's Nikki Sixx is talking about finding heroin, and I mean it's just part of it is just our schedule. I mean we can't sit and watch the whole thing. At night.
It's hard to.
We watch it at night when we're going to bed. Yeah. So we've watched it in 2 installments thus far, and I think we're about 2/3 through, maybe you said about a half hour left to go.
Yeah, you got about a half hour left.
It was entertaining. I like the energy. We actually both, Don and I, like Motley Crue. There aren't that many, hair metal bands from the 80s that we really do like, but we like them. They were pretty good. They were better than most.
Yeah, I don't mind them at all. I think a lot of their music was good. It's dated. It hasn't held up as well as some. Like if I have to listen to classic rock, I gravitate more towards the Led Zeppelin and stuff like that before Motley Crue, personally. But hey, they have held up, and they are still a name in the music industry to some extent.
Yeah, they are. And what I like about them musically is very, they were fast, but not too fast. Really chunky riffs. See, I like rhythm. I don't like music that just, it's either so fast that it strips away the rhythm, or it's plodding. I don't like that either. So they're heavy but very chunky, and I like that, and I think that has held
Okay,
up.
who's better, Motley Crue, Led Zeppelin?
Oh, of course, no comparison. Obviously, Led Zeppelin, but I'm talking about hair metal bands.
Hair metal. Oh my lord! You know what? One
from
thing
the '80s, and I think they're the best of those.
I remember the day when the hair metal music died. A little band out of Seattle, Washington called Nirvana showed up, and that was it.
I agree.
It was almost overnight. It was done.
You're right. Absolutely. It became very unfashionable to be so glammy and all dressed up, and the costumes and the madness and the crazy shows with the pyrotechnics and the lights and all that. It went out of favor overnight. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, as soon as that first single dropped from Nirvana, I think it was Smells Like Teen Spirit. That was it. After that, it was, wow, this is a whole lot better than anything these guys have ever put out. And that's why they died overnight.
Well, and it was such a different mentality, too.
Yeah. It was more down-to-earth mentality.
Much more down to earth. Much less pretentious. It's grunge,
Yeah.
It's very inward looking. It's very downplaying of fashion. It's the opposite of hair metal. It is literally the opposite, although some of the music isn't all that different. But stylistically and mentality, culturally, the opposite of 80s big city, L.A., Hollywood, hair metal.
Okay, question, though, for you being a musician. Do you think that Motley Crue has influenced today's music?
Oh, sure. I think so. Yeah. I think Mars was a really good guitarist, and I think he was kind of the leader in the sound. And I think he really he had a real good ear for very, very catchy riffs. And they were able to put together pretty good melodies, pretty memorable melodies. I was just going through there. I was looking at through my filing, filing through my whole freaking collection. Because, you're looking to see where to put something. So you're still seeing kind of everything you have. Even though you're only scanning, but you're seeing it. Anyway, I was looking at my Motley Crue's Greatest Hits CD. And, there's a lot of good songs on there.
Yeah, I interviewed them some years back. And the one that struck me the most as being the most intelligent, just flat out intelligent, was Mick Mars, for sure.
Yeah, he was the musician, and he's much older. Did you see what year he was born?
Yeah, he was born 19. Well, the jury's out.
51?
No one quite knows when he was born, though. Look at Wikipedia; they have multiple years he might have been born. No one quite knows. He did claim he was an alien.
When in doubt, go with the oldest.
That is true. That is very true.
I think he really was born in 1950.
I'm sure of it.
Meaning he's like 68 now.
He is my mother's age, 68 years old. Sorry, Mom, didn't mean to date you, but you are 68. Her birthday was just on the 23rd, so happy belated birthday, Mom. Again. So we had her over. We had a nice time. But anyhow, getting back to what we're talking about is music and the influence of Motley Crue. I thought Motley Crue was one of those kind of bands that I did see them live on a couple different occasions. They had a huge bombastic show, arena-type show, and it was a lot of fun. They used a lot of that to cover up their shortcomings. They used a lot of gimmicks to cover up their lack of musical talent. That was evident, seeing them live.
I believe that. I actually saw them pretty early on. I saw them in a club, before they went to arenas and beyond. I saw them in a club. And at that level, they were pretty good, I don't like that really high, screechy vocal, I like Vince Neil when he's singing in his regular, normal voice, his actual voice, much better. which happened more later. Early on, it was that real high, like Dio kind of singing. You know what I mean?
Yep, I do know exactly what you mean. I thought that Ian, I think it's Rowan, was Mick Mars, Daniel Weber is Vince Neil, and Machine Gun Kelly, of all people, is Tommy Lee.
Yeah, he's good in that.
That was surprising to me.
He was a likable guy. I like him in that. He's the most likable guy in the band. Is Tommy Lee?
Yeah,
in the movie anyway.
And he acted so well. I was surprised that's who that was in a lot of ways.
He was good
because he's a rapper, you know, and he, not that there's anything wrong with being a rapper. I think he's a very talented rapper, very talented in his own right, but he's also proving to be a talented actor.
I thought he was very good and very likable, and you needed that because they weren't all super likable guys, you know. They were
human.
They were users. Let's face it.
Yeah, they really were. Now, what started all this, of course, is Bohemian Rhapsody. Started the revival of the biopic again for rock and roll, and so that has been cool. I'm just waiting for the Led Zeppelin one, and eventually, I heard there might be an AC/DC one coming out. So those all might be very interesting.
Well, in a way, if you think about it, popular music is a really fertile source for, film topics. There's huge stars, fascinating, weird lifestyles, stories, rising to the top, falling to the bottom, rising up again, back and forth, on and on and on. So it's not surprising. What is surprising is how long it was, how a gap that there was before Bohemian Rhapsody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's real true. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't have a movie out before this.
There hasn't been one in quite a while.
No, it's been a long time. But that was a good movie. It's worth sitting down. I would not have watched it had it not been on Netflix, though. I would not have gone to the theater to watch this. But I also did see the movie, and we were off the last couple of weeks. I actually did sit down and watch the movie Overlord. Now that's a fun movie.
I like that a lot. It was way better acted, A, and B, way better production values than I assumed.
Right?
It would have. It was a really good movie.
It was very good.
The zombie part was almost incidental, It was actually a very serious and thought-provoking war movie.
That's what it was. And
more than anything else.
Yeah, and the zombies were just the side of,
they really were.
Of what they were doing, the Nazis were doing. So if you guys want to sit down and watch Overlord, it's definitely worth your time. I liked it a whole lot.
I did too.
I did. I was going in there like you, low expectations, not wondering what they're going to do, but they did a wonderful job of storytelling. Now, I did hear a lot of people scream a little bit. It was nowhere near historical accurate. But guess what? There was no zombies in World War II either. So if you're looking for historical accuracy, one critic said, well, we all know during World War II there would not have been black and white soldiers together.
Yeah,
really?
Nor would there have been zombies.
Really? That's what you got of this whole movie, was that they shouldn't be together. Really? You didn't enjoy the story? Okay, then. Yeah. It almost pains me that someone be that closed-minded.
Right. I mean, that's pretty nitpicky.
It is very nitpicky. And again, there was no zombies in World War II.
That we know of.
Well, there was no zombies. Come on. There's not going to be a zombie apocalypse either, Eric.
And they weren't even exactly zombies.
No.
I mean, technically they were, I guess. But it was... What it really was about was Nazi experimentation on humans. And
True.
My God, there was plenty of that.
And did you also see that the new Avengers is coming at us already?
Yeah.
That's coming out now. Captain Marvel tanked.
Oh, no. It's done super well.
Really? Because I just saw a review on it this morning that as far as being acted and for production value, it was not very good.
But box office?
Yes. But as far as the actual movie goes, the critics were kind of a little rough on it.
Well, I have not seen it. Let's see. What are they saying about it? 77% of attendees liked it. I haven't looked at. Let's see what. It's done really well.
in box office. Well, anything
box-
that says Marvel on it will do real well. I mean, it could be anything Marvel, and it will do real well. Look at Ant-Man did real well. And
I liked the first Ant-Man.
I did, but the second one really fell on its face. Now I'm curious to what Disney's going to do with the new Deadpool. I have an idea they're going to water it down in a big way. That's why they brought out the new Deadpool, where it was kind of cleaned up with Fred Savage.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see the nitty gritty anymore.
Really?
I don't think Disney will do it.
Ugh.
I just don't think that the House of Mouse will let that happen, man.
Even with the amazing box office and tremendous reviews.
And you know, the cleaned up Deadpool tanked. That one truly did tank.
Yeah,
that did horrible.
All right, so Captain Marvel is 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. I have seen some very negative reviews, but I've seen a lot of very positive reviews, and I've seen a lot of mid-level reviews.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to hold judgment for myself till I do see it. I've read what the critics have said. Some loved it, some hated it, some thought the only reason why it had any merit is because it happened to say Marvel on it. I guess check it out. Leave it up to leave it up to you guys. Check it out and see if you like it or not. But I do.
We will eventually. Eventually, we see not every, almost every superhero movie
in the theater, right? Did you go to the theater?
Oh no! I mean, we big ones. Like I'm sure we will go see the new Avengers. Yeah. In the theater. Yes.
Yeah.
Because we got to see it because we saw the last one in the theater, and with everyone turning into ash and blowing away.
Yeah. Well,
that was sad.
It was very sad, but one movie that does kind of look good, I thought I'd hate it, now I kind of want to see it, is the new Hellboy.
I've seen the trailers I've seen look funny.
They do. See, Ron Perlman, he played that perfect. Yeah. I mean,
he was great. I agree.
You couldn't have picked a better Hellboy. I mean, he looks like him without makeup on, for crying out loud.
He really does.
He's
a scary-looking guy.
He is a very scary-looking guy, and the new one looks actually pretty good. It's got the actor from Stranger Things in it.
Yeah.
That played the sheriff, that played Hopper.
David Harbour.
Yeah, so that will be interesting. I want to check that out. And we're
under a ton of makeup.
Yeah, under a lot of makeup. This summer, though, it is going to be superhero heavy, is what I hear.
Well, isn't it every summer?
It is. And now the Oscars are up for grabs. They're bringing it. Yeah,
right. Now that they're starting to get some nominations, you're right. Yep.
So
Black Panther was nominated, and what else was nominated? I think the Avengers got something. That last Avengers was really good, I thought.
I thought it was really good, too. And then the new Jordan Peele movie is supposed to be stellar.
Boy, and it did very well in box office, too. Yeah, boy, he's just – yes, exactly. He has taken off. He's exploded not really out of nowhere, but he was known as a performer. He was a comedian.
Yeah.
Where did all this come from? Being a thinking man's horror filmmaker. Where did that come from? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? This one looks really good. I want to go check it out. What's it called? Us or Them? I can't remember what. Us.
Yep.
I was looking it up really quickly because the name was escaping me, but think about it. It's doppelgangers. What's more paranormal than doppelgangers?
That's about as paranormal as it gets. Yeah. And if they're out to take over your life, what could be more frightening?
Right? So I'm going to definitely have to go check that one out. But so a lot of good movies come down the hopper. We'll just want to take this time to talk a little bit about movies. Really, really quickly, unless you're going to touch on next half hour, The Walking Dead. What do you think now with the Whispers firmly in the cast? How do you feel about it?
Well, this Alpha is certainly an extremely formidable and evil villain, and her able to slip right into the fair, with wearing a wig and looking normal, that is an entirely new element. I think she's really, really scary. What do I think? I think this season has been better. I was ready for a change. I was ready. I'm fine with the time slip. I'm okay with all that. I guess we'll see where things go. I'm feeling more tense about it again. So I guess that's a good sign. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For a while, I just didn't care that much. You know?
I'm kind of disappointed that they don't have more Negan though. That character, developing him a little bit more. I would hope, because they've gone so far afield from the comic books now. They might as well write him in as the savior or something to come in and face off against the Whisperers.
I think they are going to integrate him into the crew. I think that will happen. There's been a lot of hints of that, especially his relationship with Judith, the fact that he came back after escaping on his own. I think eventually they'll go, well, what do we have to lose,
Yeah, well, he's such a great actor on top of it. He is. He really carries the scenes. He does. He does so well with that character. And it's just a shame. Well, that's why Jesus left, though. He was sick of playing Jesus. He didn't feel that they were doing enough with the character.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just thinking about this last week. It's an enormous cast.
It's convoluted. It's very convoluted.
Dozens of people in that cast. It's hard for anyone. If you get one episode a season that's focused on you, I mean, that's a big deal on that show.
But it never truly moves forward. It takes it forever because it is so convoluted, the storyline. It's jumping everywhere. It's become a soap opera. And zombies have become an afterthought more than anything else.
Well, I think there has been more of the zombie peril. At least I'm feeling it. Maybe because the Whisperers are always among them,
Yeah.
But I have felt more anxious about zombies after you almost got to a point, for a couple seasons there where it's like zombies were just, part of the scenery. They weren't even very dangerous anymore.
Yep.
Now they feel perilous again. So, I mean, I think the show has made some improvements. I think it's a lot better. I think it's in a lot better place than it was a year ago. And I guess we'll see where things end up.
Hopefully they start moving that storyline a little bit further down the road, though. Come on, it's starting to get a little hard to watch.
It's always
so
been so
we got to get out of here. We're late for break. We come back. You're America's Most Haunted Headlines. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com. Only you can prevent wildfires.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
I got a rather serious problem over here.
All right, what are we looking at?
Cranky mother-in-law asleep on the couch in the man cave.
Dear God.
It gets worse.
That's impossible.
And she's passed out on the remote.
I stand corrected.
What do I do?
Okay, I want you to grab a Torrin Big Red hydraulic bottle jack.
Okay.
Now you wedge that bad boy in under your mother-in-law and crank her up skyward.
It's working. And got the remote.
Great. Now grab that Torrin Big Red 2-ton folding shop crane and put that woman on wheels.
And away we go.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me.
Eric Olson.
And go to fire up Yay Old Twitter, and I want you to seek out AM Haunted, America's Most Haunted. That is the Twitter feed. And while you're at it, after you're all done there, and if you're not there already, you should be there. That's America's-Most-Haunted.com. Only the coolest website on the planet. Or Amazemo. There we go. I did work that in there. Amazemo. That is awesome. I'm looking at it right now. Eric, you did a bang-up job. Guess what? We have a great guest on tonight, and we kind of forgot to talk about it a little bit. We should have talked about it a little bit more, but we're going to be talking about the George Van Tassel stuff, and great movie is out there, Calling All Earthlings. And that is just hitting. That will be coming out later on, I do believe, this month. Am I correct, Eric? Or...
Well, no, it's been out a while.
Okay.
Our guest, Jonathan Berman, he's the filmmaker, the mastermind behind it. He is doing us a favor. It actually came out, I think, last August.
That's what it was. There it is.
But he is doing us a big favor because we haven't talked about it on the show, and I don't think the movie has gotten enough attention, and it's really a fascinating topic.
It really is. George Van Tassel, of course, many think he was murdered by the government, and we'll get into that in top and next hour. But until then, why don't you come on over to Twitter, seek out AM Haunted, America's Most Haunted. That is our Twitter feed. And yes, thank you guys for caring. Yes, I am stuffy. That's because of allergies. So someone just hit me up going, guys sound stuffy tonight, Joel. Yes, allergies are hitting me, so please bear with me. All right.
Well, I do too, and I take many more potions and medications than you do for it, Joel. But I've had to cut down because I was told I was taking too much Sudafed. I'm getting too old.
Well, you're never too old. You're not even that old. What are you, 52, 53? Come on, you're a youngster.
No, I'm a lot older than that.
I know. But
I mean, not a lot.
Compared to Mick Mars, you're a kid.
I am. That makes me happy. He's still rocking at whatever, 68, 69. Well, look at the Stones. They're all in their mid-70s.
That's right.
Outrageous.
Exactly. It is crazy, isn't it? Okay.
Crazy go nuts. It's Amazemo is what it is.
Exactly. All right, sir. Where do you want to take us on this crazy ride of headlines?
Right. We're gonna jump around a little because as I mentioned last night, I guess
jump around.
Mentioned a little tonight, just mentioning about doing all my filing and organizing and all that, and dealing with all the CDs. But as a result of that, I took a little time off from social media. Plus, it's spring break here, and Alex has been home all week. And
wow, you guys get spring break. We have not got that yet. So anyhow, yeah.
Lily's was last week. Alex's is this week. And anyway, so I haven't done my usual social media. I took a little break, and it's fine. I think that's okay once in a while. So we're going to skip around a bit. Anyway, all right. So, boy, I am excited about this. Who has not read as a kid, or not even as a kid, as a childhood-looking adult, seeking adult, who hasn't read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark? And they are scary.
Yeah, I remember reading that book. And it's been out a long time.
Amazing pictures, the artwork, just fantastic work on that series of books. So they've been assembled into a single film, which is, of course, called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's a series of disconnected stories is what
it's an anthology.
It's an anthology, and I forget how many actual books. Maybe there were only 2 or 3, but so many stories, and that's what's been assembled. And Guillermo del Toro is the producer. He didn't direct it, but he is the producer, and the trailer is just out. Just came out today. Very excited about it. It's looking
cool.
Really scary. And, it's probably geared toward what they call young adults. But, man, I think it looks great, and I am certainly going to check it out.
When does the movie hit? When does it drop?
It comes out this summer.
Oh, very cool. I'll have to check that out as well.
It is not far off, and you'll have to see if you can Share it with the kids. Let's see. I'm going to see exactly what the date is. August 9th is when it comes out.
Perfect time to go see Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
So that's very exciting. You can click through from the Twitter feed and see the trailer and judge for yourself. And again, like Joel said, the main reason to check out the Twitter feed for yourself is so you can see the pictures, because a lot of it's very visual. Like this next one. We have two shrouded figures sitting on a bench. One is identical, except for color. One is red, one is white. And yet they're compatible and sitting next to each other.
It's a perfect world, isn't it?
It is. Color is only shroud deep.
That is so true. That's very deep, if you really think about it.
It is.
Very deep.
I'm proud of that.
You should. You should be.
Check out this next image. I am telling you, it is worth the price of admission. It's free to go to Twitter on
it's worth every penny.
Whatever your device is, twitter.com/amhaunted, just so you can see this. So what it is, it's an image, it's a photograph, I believe, anyway, of an amazing green northern lights, but it's also a landscape with a creepy, old, classic, abandoned, haunted house.
Ooh, they're calling for the Northern Lights to make a big impact coming up here. People will be able to see them.
They're amazing. And it's surprising how far south they go. People think of them as, only being in the Arctic Circle.
Sure.
But no, they come way, way down. You get them up in your...
Oh, all the time. Yeah, we get them a lot, to be honest. We get them more than most of the rest of the country. So we see them a lot.
Okay, so anyway, it's just a very cool image with a just explosive green aurora, and then this very
Aurora
haunted,
Borealis. Yep, and this haunted house.
the desolate, abandoned haunted house. It's the haunted North.
A cool picture.
It is.
Cool picture.
All righty, so we're almost to April 1st.
Really? Did we have to go Christmas?
Oh, we do. This is what Santa looks like on April 1st. The poor guy, he's reduced to nothing.
Oh, my Lord.
Look how skinny. He's all skin and bones.
Oh, Mrs. Claus isn't feeding him. Yeah, he doesn't get fed until like October-ish.
This is his low point.
Yes, this is his.
He starts gearing up by early summer.
He does. He kicked into the cardio too early. Now he's just skin and bones.
Yeah, so we had to do that. Periodically, we check in on Santa, see how he's doing. He isn't doing well.
No, he's had he only comes once a year.
So he takes some time off. There's a lot of theories about that. Does he even exist in the off season?
Well, clearly he wishes he didn't in the off season. Look at the poor man.
He is not looking well.
No.
He's a shadow of himself.
Yes.
All right, next image. We got a really cool, crazy plant. What do you call that when it's like a creeping vine, but it's a standalone.
Yeah.
And at the end of it is a huge eyeball.
Looks like something from Resident Evil, like video games.
It looks evil.
It does.
And it's clearly residing somewhere.
It is.
So clearly the issue here is wrong kind of fertilizer.
Kind of reminds me of Little Shop of Horrors, only with the eyeball.
That too. Yes.
Feed me, Seymour. Feed me. Yeah, exactly.
I could not agree more entirely. All right, next image. Moving along, because man, we just charge through. We have not double, but triple lightning.
I see that. Look at that.
It is a water scene, a seascape. You see a little bit of the shore, and then there are two different areas, two different lightning strikes. One is a double, one is a single. So combined, they're a triple, and it's really quite an astonishing picture. And what concerns me is the results and the flotsam and the jetsam when lightning can't get along. There's always collateral damage.
Always. There's always that, too.
It's some grim stuff. All right, so we're going to skip. So if you're following along, skip on down a little bit here because we gotta get to some stuff we did not cover before. And we are going to go all the way down. Did we talk about? Yep, we did. We talked about the us. And okay, so here we go. We need a good ghost story here.
I love ghost stories.
Me too. And this comes from our good friends at the Lineup. And this is the history and the reported haunting of Alabama's Huntingdon College.
Ooh.
And their resident ghost is the Red Lady.
No, I did not know that. That looks cool, though. That picture is super old.
It is
super creepy.
It's very creepy. They're all lined up in front of the school. That was probably the entire student body at
Probably
that time.
was in the circa 1920s, maybe a little earlier. Pretty early.
I'm trying to read it. I think it says 1918.
Ooh, wow, that is going way back.
So 100 years ago, 101.
101 years ago, I remember it well.
So you learn the tale of the Red Lady Huntingdon College. I guess let's see what the bottom line is. Who she is? Oh no, there's two.
Oh, two ghosts.
There's two Red Ladies.
Oh wow! Well, two are better than one. You know.
All
Roxanne.
Right, so you don't have to put
the red light. Oh, yeah, don't put the red light out. There it is. Whoa! Man, I was not expecting that one.
The first Red Lady appeared in the late 1800s when the college was located in Tuskegee. Supposedly a young woman clad in a scarlet dress and bathed in a red light wandered the halls of a dormitory late one night. She vanished the same evening and was never seen again. Well, that's not very fun.
No, that is not very fun. That's
a single appearance? Come on.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you get. Well, at least Stranger Things is coming back for the third appearance, so they got that going for them.
The second Red Lady is said to be the ghost of a freshman girl who attended Huntingdon in the early 1900s, back when it was a single gender school called Women's College of Alabama. Her name was Martha. As the legend goes, no one wanted to room with a strange girl from New York who was forced to attend Huntingdon against her wishes. Martha was cold and unfriendly. Unsurprisingly, she couldn't keep a roommate. She lived in a dormitory known as Pratt Hall.
Huh. Wow.
Ooh, the dorm president decided to take the troubled student under her wing. She moved into Martha's room where everything was decorated in the color red, from her curtains to her bedspread to the clothes she wore. The arrangement, however, was short-lived. Even the dorm president couldn't stand sharing the space, so she moved out. Oh no, what do you think is going to happen?
She's going to get killed somehow.
Well, she would have to end up dead, wouldn't
she? Yeah, to become
Martha came home as her soon-to-be ex-roommate packed her belongings. In a rage, Martha lashed out, accusing the dorm president of abandoning her like all the others at Huntingdon. What's more, Martha allegedly issued a curse, warning the president that she would regret the day she left the room.
Oh, not a curse? No one likes curses.
Wa-na-na.
Wow, so that's the story of the Red Lady, Roxanne.
Well, Martha. Martha's strange behavior only escalated from there. She took to walking the dorm halls late at night, spooking her classmates by staring right through them. As if she were in a trance. Maybe she was. After weeks of these odd midnight strolls, Martha stopped showing up for class. Then she stopped going to meals in the dorm cafeteria. Concerned, the dorm president went to Martha's room to check on her. Entering the room, she came upon a grisly sight. Martha had slashed her wrists and was lying in a pool of blood atop her red bedspread. Wow,
that's pretty heinous scene right there.
That
man
is a ghost story.
You know, I would never cut my wrist to kill myself. Do you want to know why? Because I hate waiting for things.
And it's too messy.
You know what I mean? Can you imagine laying there going, okay, well, I'm going to bleed out. Now, you know, who has time for that? You know,
no one I know.
No one. And that's just too labor intensive.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got no time for that. Have you ever seen that video?
Yeah,
Sweet Brown? Oh, yeah.
Hilarity. That was among the early viral videos.
I had no shoes or nothing, Jesus.
It was hysterical.
Yes,
All
it
right.
was.
So speaking of Stranger Things, maybe this is why you mentioned it.
I did.
We finally have a trailer for season 3.
We do.
Yes, we do.
All right.
Even though the season doesn't start till, when does it start? Actually, it's not so far away.
How
No,
far
it comes July 4th.
Oh, not too bad. You know, I'm surprised they didn't have an October release last October.
Well, it normally would have, but they were way, 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 way behind.
That and people said that the second season was kind of bad compared to this first one. I remember that.
So, right, and they were going to take much longer. They said they rushed, frankly, they admitted. They rushed season 2.
It's a sophomore curse. is what it
Sure,
was.
sophomore jinx, absolutely. So for season 3, the what are they? What are the brothers? The Duffer brothers?
Yeah, the Duffer Brothers. Yep.
They have taken much more time, and as a result, this is. I mean, it's almost a whole entire year later.
It better be great. It
better be good.
It has to be good now. They absolutely have to make it. With that kind of build-up, they got to make it the greatest.
And the kids are growing up.
Yeah, they're getting kind of old now. Almost too old to play the parts.
They're aging. It is something. All right, we love our Edgar Allan Poe here. Great image, and I think that's just really all it is. It's an image, and they're talking. What it is representing are the fruits of his mind. So there's a raven, there's a haunted house, there's a skull, there's the telltale heart, all coming out of the top of his head. It's really quite a creepy image, but very effective.
Doesn't love a little Poe?
No one that I know.
No one that I know doesn't like Poe. Yep, exactly.
Oh, we talked about that ghoul-infested. I remember Don't Wear a Bikini. Was holy cow, I don't know. We're going way back here.
We're the way back machine here. Where are we going, Mr. Peabody?
Did we talk about this, that even female monsters are supposed to be hot? Did we talk about that?
No, we did not talk about that.
All right, here we go. Got a great image here. I love this. It's a painting, obviously. And it's kind of all the different representations of female monsters. There's a witch. There's a there's Bride of
werewolf.
Frankenstein.
You got it all there. You even got a merwoman, a demon. You got everything there. Witches. Got it all, man.
Kind of like a cat person. Yeah, we got it all.
It's a who's who of female monsterhood.
So even though this clearly is meant to represent female monsterhood, they're all still pretty hot.
Wow.
So how is that for a double standard? Even female monsters are supposed to be attractive.
This is true because beauty and danger go hand in hand many times. And
so I mean, women just can't get a break from being judged on their appearance.
They really can't get a break from. You're right. You really are right in some aspects, or a lot of aspects. They cannot. They're always expected to look great, and by golly, I appreciate them for that. But society just will not let them be them, will they? Even the monsters.
Even now, even the monsters, and even in 2019, women, even now, no matter how accomplished they are judged on their appearance far more than men are.
Did you know when I was a young guy in radio, we had a higher-powered executive female that worked at the station, and the guys could bring her down with one word or one phrase. It did all right for a chick.
Oh, boy.
And I felt bad for that person. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. It's very
hard.
All right, this next image I love. It's the classic ghost. What is that? The Grudge?
Oh, yeah, that's like Grudgy. Yeah, they're remaking that too, by the way.
Grudgy or
The Ring.
Or The Ring, yeah.
More The Ring because it's a toilet. It's kind of a ring. Yeah, there you go. I got that now.
Yeah. So we have a decrepit old toilet. Looks like at a abandoned rest stop, and we have the ghost coming up out of it, and oh my God, for the love of Pete, never leave the toilet seat up.
No, and flush twice if you must. Yep, I hear ya.
So there she is. Once again, you should be checking out these images. Twitter.com/AMHaunted. It's so much more of a 3D experience.
Did you know that they're remaking The Grudge, and I heard The Ring is going to be being remade?
Again?
Again. That's what I heard. Bloody Disgusting had it on there a while back, a couple weeks back, that they're remaking these movies. So why we would need a remake of subpar movies that were subpar to begin with, I do not know.
The original Ring, the Japanese version, it was pretty shocking. It was pretty scary. The English language remake was okay, pretty good. But then there was another one that was just, the same but less. And, I mean, do we really need yet another version of it?
They should really remake, if they're going to remake something, they should really remake Psycho. I mean, a good one. One that holds up.
They did.
They did with, what's his name? Vince Vaughn.
Vince
Another
Vaughn.
Minnesotan. And he did not do, in my opinion, very well.
It was an odd version, I agree. It didn't add anything to the original.
No, I found it to be, quite honestly, a little kind of weak in a lot of ways. And in fact, our guest just joined us, by the way. Maybe we can ask him before we come back. We really got to ask a filmmaker a question. If you don't mind us putting you on the spot, sir.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello. If you don't mind us putting you on the spot, Jonathan, you're the perfect man to ask. You're an accomplished filmmaker. Do you feel that Psycho should be remade? Or do you think it's one of those you leave it alone?
Leave the classics alone. Oh, my God.
Because we're just talking about that. They're remaking everything these days. And Bloody Disgusting was
its mother.
And its mother. They're talking about remaking The Grudge and The Ring, right? Now, those are fairly contemporary films.
Didn't Gus Van Sant already redo Psycho, or am I thinking of another Hitchcock classic that was butchered?
He did, because they had Vince Vaughn in the lead. And Vaughn, being a fellow Minnesotan, I like Vince, but he, in my opinion, did not.
He wasn't
well.
right in the role.
No.
And Anne Heche was the woman, and she is from Aurora, Ohio.
Look at that! Look at that connection right there, Midwest connection. Who says there's no talent in the Midwest? Take that, L.A.
I think she was a freshman when my brother was a senior at Aurora High School.
Oh, really? Very, very cool. But what do you say we go to break, we come back, and we have Jonathan on. For the reason why he came aboard is to talk about his awesome film. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. As soon as my board wants to cooperate with me, it is a cursed radio evening. All right, we'll be right back right after this.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's a shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olson.
Oh, there you are, Eric. Where'd you go? I thought you were still in the can
I
or
was
something.
having a moment of self-reflection.
Oh, you were? Well, reflect on your own time, man. Reflect on your own time.
I know. I understand. I apologize.
Right? We have a great guest tonight, Jonathan
I'm
Berman
hanging my
on.
head.
I'm trying to tell everybody we have Jonathan Berman on, and you're hanging your head over there sulking. I need you to do it.
Jonathan Berman.
The one and only Jonathan
Hey,
Berman.
guys.
Hey,
what's
now-
happening?
Eric.
Now that
was
enthusiasm.
Exactly. See, there you go, Eric. I might even Jonathan, you're the new co-host. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, great. Fine.
I will step aside. I'll let Eric do what he does. He's the best intro man in the business.
All right, we are talking about the film Calling All Earthlings. Calling All Earthlings is the true story of Howard Hughes, the post-war avant-garde, and a mad genius named George Van Tassel, who took off from the California desert in a flying saucer. In 1947, Hughes' employee and confidant, George Van Tassel, suddenly quit working for his mentor and ditched conventional life, moving deep into the Mojave Desert, where he and his family slept under a rock. I don't know. It sounds kind of squishy. He left behind a frayed Los Angeles in the grips of post-war paranoia, opting for the quietude of Joshua Tree. During an August 1953 full moon, Van Tassel encountered extraterrestrials who gave him the plans to build a rejuvenation machine he dubbed the Integratron. Van Tassel believed he was chosen by these extraterrestrial visitors, led, of course, by Solganda, who spoke to him with a voice not unlike that of actor Ronald Colman, to build a massive experimental dome that would open a hole in time and space. Van Tassel soon combined Solganda's blueprints with the work of Nikola Tesla and other alternative scientists. All kinds of madness ensues. The film follows the tale, and I will not tell you of George Van Tassel's end, because I do not wish to spoil it. But eventually he was able to actually build his dome, his Integratron, and so that still exists. It's still being tended to. And he also developed, I guess it's not a cult, but he developed a following out there in the desert, and that's still a real artsy kind of cool, bohemian, freaky kind of place, and it's actually quite near where they have had. I think they moved it, but the Contact in the Desert gathering I know takes place near there, or has in the past.
Oh yeah, we tested the film there and actually helped, meld it together with the help of some regulars from that world.
Fantastic. Calling All Earthlings tells the story through the eyes of current and past residents of the Joshua Tree area, including singer and former animal Eric Burden, medicine woman Valerie Brightheart, Ernest Siva, historian and elder of the Morongo Indians, LA Free Press publisher Art Kunkin, and the current stewards of the dome, the Carl sisters, who now own the property. Rounding out the story are esteemed California historian Dr. Kevin Starr, skeptical astronomer Bob Berman, and legendary Stargate participant J.J. Hurtak. Wow, and the soundtrack is super excellent, cool, put together by Elliot Sharp, Clive Wright, and other co-conspirators. Amazing stuff. Who is our filmmaker, Jonathan Berman? Jonathan Berman is project director and producer of Calling All Earthlings and an associate professor in arts and technology at Cal State San Marcos. His films explore subculture and identity, challenging and redefining how alternative people, groups, and ideas are represented. Berman began by working on Pee-wee's Playhouse, classic, The Toxic Avenger 2, and other TV genre and art projects before shifting to documentaries because real life is more fantastic than most fiction. He made The Schwitz, a National Endowment for the Arts supported project that found a wealth of characters and attitudes in the diverse patrons of a traditional New York bathhouse. My Friend Paul, produced with Corporation for Public Broadcasting, focused upon the turbulence of bipolar illness and was one of the first modern documentaries about the friends and family of the mentally ill. Commune was the first recent documentary film to re-examine the legacy of the 60s counterculture, wins and excesses through communal living. Other works include Story By, meaning, he came up with it, for the feature comedy On the Run, producing the documentary Sabbath in Paradise for German TV, and producing episodes of Maternity Ward for Discovery New York Times. Welcome to the program, Jonathan Berman.
Thank you. I feel like, as I've heard, the next line is, he was found dead on Thursday in his Hollywood home. Wow.
Having Mecca like a high, Mecca high knee ho written across his forehead.
Thanks, guys.
Pee Wee Herman reference, everybody. Thank you. You're all weak. No, but Jonathan.
Love it, Pee Wee. Love it.
I did. I love that show. But anyhow, let's talk about the great movie you got out there, Calling All Earthlings. What made you want to take this story up? I mean, it was quite ambitious. I mean, a lot of filming, a lot of colorful characters, a deep story. I mean, it must have taken quite some time as well.
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question. I've always been entranced, as I have a feeling you guys are, and bewitched and bewildered by what lies out there beyond the rock solid, the ethereal, the trippy, the path less traveled. I was a deadhead as a child and a musician, and so when I saw this picture of the dome in a book of California spiritual spaces, I was like, oh, I just had this I have to go there.
It called to you. It called to you.
It kind of called to me through my video camera in my trunk, whipped out to the desert, and I got sucked in,
Wow, that is something else. Man, I know I've never been in that area, but we have had just about everybody that's the who's who that goes to Contact in the Desert over there in Joshua Tree. Listen to me. Allergies kicking in there for a second. Kevin, talk, darn it. And it is a special place, though. It is. There's like a calling, though. People have described it as there's a calling. It's almost a magnetic force that brings these people together.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of people, including geologists, have said that there is a certain ley line, which is what would you call it? Para kind of phenomena. Not proven by hardcore scientists, but that there is some kind of force in that area, a mystical force. And you do feel it. I mean, whether it's just not being around light sources, but there's something about that area that is magical. Starting with the rock, starting with Giant Rock. That's kind of where it all started. Yeah.
Well, who exactly was George Van Tassel? I suppose we should start at the top. How this all got started. Who was he?
Yeah, George, like you guys, was a Midwestern lad and grew up in Ohio and loved aircraft. My understanding is, I don't know if this was true of George, is that there's no age minimum to fly an airplane. And a lot of people involved in crop dusting and stuff like that, they'll be working their family's farm when they're like, 10 or something, Yeah, it's incredible. So he always was entranced by airplanes and studied aircraft and air technology, and then got himself out to California. It was the new frontier, like the Donald Fagen song, and it was a new frontier of airplanes and people like Howard Hughes and other people involved in taking us to the next level in the world of airplanes. And there were jobs aplenty eventually because the war came around, World War II, and George wound up working for none other than Mr. Howard Robard Hughes.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, and how deep that connection goes. I mean, one of the things I also love about the story is, and you see it in the film, and for your description, it sounds like an amazing film. I don't know.
A guy told me, and another guy said it was great. No, I watched it myself this afternoon.
A small bird.
Yes, a condor told me.
A condor.
It was a condor.
Yeah, I mean, that there are so many different versions of the story, like Rashomon, the Japanese film.
Oh, from perspective.
Yeah, like, no, it happened this way. No, it happened that way. So some people, it is widely said that George was Howard Hughes' personal flight inspector, and he definitely did a lot of stuff at Hughes, became like a shop foreman for a while. Was patriotic, like a lot of people, and tried to rat out some Nazi spies, and even contacted the FBI on them, people he thought were Nazi spies. But ultimately, quit the gig, fled to the desert. Some people say it was because the war was over and he just wanted to get his family out of the heck hole. Can I say heck hole?
Oh, you can say whatever you want. You're good.
You can even say hell hole.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I live in the city. I'm a city guy. I live in L.A. I'm more of a New York guy, but the city can get to you after a while. And he took his kids and his wife and slept under this rock, under the open stars. Just the beauty of nature.
Did he just show up one day? Got home? He says, "Honey, we're going to the desert."
That, I think, is basically it. However, there's another version of the story.
Well, let's hear that.
Talk about that after the break.
You know how it works.
I love radio, I have to say. The other version of the story is that Hughes sent him out there because Howard Hughes and Hughes Aircraft had a secret base out there where they were working on various experimental aircraft.
Okay.
And that Hughes sent him out there to do this kind of top secret work not far from Landers.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Which do you think is true?
I don't know. I would lean towards the you sent him out there, but I'm not sure.
Is this pre-movie theater or post-movie theater for Howard Hughes?
Oh, great question.
Was it crazy at this point?
Post-war, he had already been involved heavily in the movie business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So, it was post.
He was a polymath.
What's crazy was that after his crash, because I think what he, like, people don't realize when Howard Hughes had his crash, in 1946 is right around that time he was starting to lose it.
Yeah,
But it may,
yeah. He lost it huge, though, Howard did. And maybe that crash had something to do with it.
That's what they say. Yeah, that's what they say. They say that he really hurt his head in a way, like that. Now boxers and stuff and football players have these injuries.
That is unfortunate because he was.
Well, it only makes sense
Yeah.
if it's that scene from the film The Aviator, which is pretty great,
Yeah.
where he crashes through the neighborhood, right? He lands on houses, and oh my God, it was just nightmarish. Amazing that he lived. So, I mean, it would not be surprising if it caused some damage. You can't keep crashing all the time.
But you would have
It's like,
thought. Oh, go ahead, sir. But I was going to
I
say.
was just gonna say it's like watching my favorite show, Supernatural, which they just said will only have one more season. No, only 16 seasons. But these two guys get their heads bashed in every episode, and if this were reality, I think they'd be a little punch drunk by now.
They'd be a little weird. Okay, Howard Hughes sends him out of the desert, though. You would have thought he at least would have given him a camper or something. He obviously didn't say, hey, go sleep under a rock somewhere. So maybe he did just have this epiphany that we need to go to the desert. Maybe we need to, get out there and live in nature.
Okay. All right. Well, there's a related story now that you're asking. When George Van Tassel got out to Cali, he worked during the Depression, and he worked at his uncle's gas station out in Santa Monica. Imagine how it was no traffic back then. It must have been great.
Yeah.
Anyway, this old kind of grizzled German-seeming miner shows up. His car is limping along, and he's like, "Hey, I got a mine out in the desert, and if you guys could stake me a little cash," it was like $50 or something, which is like what, $1,000 now,
Yeah.
$500.
Yeah.
And fix my car, I can cut you in. And so they did. And so the miner was in touch with George over the years. And he sent him postcards and said, come out to the desert. And he was living under Giant Rock. Giant Rock, which is where George first lived. That was the rock he lived under.
Oh, so he already had an idea of the area because the mine.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
It wasn't like he just started wandering out in the desert and said, "Hey, look at that rock over there." He had knowledge.
He had that. And then also, just to kind of turn it back to your question about whether he was working at Hughes aircraft base. Remember that people do contract work for the government.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always like, oh, here's your salary. Sometimes it's like, hey, here's $10,000 and go do this amount of work, and you deal with your own taxes and your own place to stay. So,
yeah, subcontractor. Basically.
No better rent than under the rock where he was invited. By the way, the rock, when the miner Frank Kreitzer lived there, Frank Kreitzer was a squirrely character because he was a loner, and he had shortwave radios, had a bunch of aircraft, was German or German American. That's a little unclear. And so was very suspect because it was during the wartime to have radios and aircraft and dynamite. Because
well,
oh yeah, always have some dynamite around because you're a miner. You should have. Dynamite.
No. Did George turn him in? Going, I think this guy might be shady. Come on over here to Big Rock, Giant Rock, so we can vacate him so we can live in here.
What happened was that the neighboring county police force got some wind of this, and they came, and Kreitzer, this is before George came out to the desert, and Kreitzer was like, I'm not coming out. Come and get me. And he was down below because there was this beautiful subterranean apartment kind of under the rock, and nice and cool, right, in the desert heat. You go down below, and they fired down there, and again, multiple versions of the story. Either Kreitzer offed himself, or they shot him, and it exploded, and Frank Kreitzer died. And so eventually George had heard about this and went to check out the scene. So I guess they had to clean a little of Frank Kreitzer's blood off the walls.
Oh, man. Great place to live. Look at this guy.
And guts. Don't forget the guts.
Yeah, we don't want to forget the guts. Oh, so the family shows up. He hands the wife a rag and some Windex and says, hey, clean this joint up, would you?
And not only that, they were also a spiritual family, a Christian, a farmer,
Sure.
And so they would sing spirituals, and they would, and like that Midwestern kind of conviviality, they would invite people over to sing spirituals weekly. And then the spirituals started transforming into something a little different, a little new, a kind of channeling, you might call it.
Channeling, you say? Like otherworldly channeling, like communing with maybe extraterrestrials?
Yeah, George started channeling the extraterrestrial voices, and more people started coming. First it's like one crazy guy, then it's a few, and then it's a movement.
They make a med for that now.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting story, and I tend to, it sounds like you guys too, kind of get like really deep into stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things I found very early in discussing this film is that we're kind of, yes, absolutely, meds have saved a lot of people's lives, but we're also living in a very medicated society.
Oh gosh,
there's this, right? And this idea that we separated ourselves out from the wisdom of the fool.
Do you think that's partially why no contact from extraterrestrials has happened? Because we are almost dumbed ourselves down, numbed ourselves out with all the distractions and medications that we have today?
I think, do you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
I think okay. I think that people are still making contact, or claiming to make contact, let's say. But I do think that we've lost something very valuable. This kind of archetype of the ship of fools, that with the Age of Enlightenment, they sent all the fools out on a ship into the ocean, never to come back. That separation. And the king got his counsel from the fool,
Yeah, exactly.
What we're losing, what we've lost to a certain extent, is the serendipity that comes with all of the width and breadth of human variety. That's what we're losing. The medication is pushing us all toward the center. We're losing some of the outliers. And like you said, it's a mixed bag. It's not all bad, certainly, because if you're looking at those individuals who would otherwise have a really difficult time, it's they perhaps have better lives. But maybe as a society, we are losing out because it's usually the outliers. It's the freaks and geeks who often come up with the, changes. They think outside the box. What box? I'm not thinking outside the box. There is no box.
Mm-hmm.
And
they think outside the tetrahedron.
Exactly.
There you go.
And we've seen that throughout world history, where we're just look at someone like Mozart. I mean, he was all screwed up and, dead very young, but look what he created. That kind of thing.
And Tesla. I mean, he was kind of viewed as kind of a wacky guy in his day.
Absolutely. And Tesla, who gave us modern machinery, basically, and a lot more, also had alien contact. He was a huge role model for George Van Tassel. Wound up falling in love with a pigeon at the end of his life.
Well,
he was a pigeon lover.
Love takes strange forms sometimes.
But
love is love.
Love is love. I'm not one to weigh in on transspeciesism or John Lilly seems like he took it a little too far, but that's another show.
That's a whole other show.
I'll tell you, I had the privilege of hearing Father Boyle from Homeboy Industries last night, which is they help ex-gang members and people in trouble. And he said something that really moved me. And he said, this idea of seeing someone fully like they're the only one in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's deep.
I think so, because we're all looking at our phones. First of all, forget about the medication.
Yeah.
We're looking at our phones. We're all medicated, so we're not getting that counsel. So I think the tree sprites and alien connections have something to tell us, whether it's a physical, actual manifestation of actual beings from another planet. I have no proof. I wouldn't doubt it. But anyway, one August night in the early 50s, 1954, after George had been channeling a bit, it's a full moon, and George is sleeping outside. It's hot, and a craft comes down, lands there out in the middle of the desert, really, the middle of nowhere, and a being comes out named Solganda, and he was the good kind, not the kind that drill 2 holes in the back of your neck. And Solganda said, "My name is Solganda, and I would like to show you our craft." And so it begins.
And so did George went into the craft. And
George went into the craft.
And he came out with this vast knowledge of extraterrestrials.
Already he had been speaking with them, but he came out with the knowledge, not only of the extraterrestrials, but also the idea for the plans, the essential plans and ideas for this machine that would act as a time-space machine, the Integratron.
Okay, so that's where those plans came from. They came directly from his visit with the extraterrestrials, was the Integratron. That's how that was born. And
yeah.
What was the Integratron's purpose?
Well, the purpose was to extend our lifespan in order that, like, George had this beautiful and sort of tragic idea that just as you get your shit together, you die. Just as you gain wisdom, you die. So it was to extend our lifespans by about 30-something%. And so we could be able to pass that wisdom on. And also, I believe it was also to share these ideas of limitlessness. Mm-hmm. He was a kind of, in my perspective, and again, I've probably overthought it, but this is my perspective. He was the first Aquarian. He was the father of the Aquarian age. He was very against the nuclear activity that was going on in America and the nuclear activity in the desert. And so was his old boss and friend, Howard Hughes.
Yeah, I mean, that changed everything. When the nuke came along, that changed everything. And also, there was a big uptick from what I've understood and what I've been reading. After the bomb was used, it was almost like a universal shift happened. And a whole lot more UFOs were being seen in the skies after that weapon was developed and used.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. That was the time that the stuff started hitting the fan. And, Frank Arnold had his experience. But what George said through his channelings and his speeches was that they came down to warn us against this. Like, we're being the idiot kids in the playground who are going to set the whole universe on fire. So But
part of me says to myself, if they have mastered interstellar travel, why would they care about this archaic technology we happen to discover? You would think that their technology would be so vastly superior to ours that it would be, like bringing a slingshot to a bazooka fight.
Well, the idea was that when we started messing around with atomic energy and atomic bombs, that it could, and then the next level, which was the neutron bombs, that they could really mess up the whole universe.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's why the cosmic interest happened so much in this little blue planet of ours, where maybe before they were just kind of watching from afar. Do you think that made them become more proactive? But also, it's kind of strange because the only people that see them are people in curlers and people in cornfields. I mean, they're kind
of
not...
one of our scientists says, right? He says that.
Yeah,
one of our skeptics, Bob Berman, who's not my relative.
Oh, I was going to say, is that uncle? Is that your uncle by chance? But he brought that up, and I hear that a lot from other people that are skeptics. Well, why is it only the fringes of society that sees them? Why is it never mainstream science?
It's not true, actually.
I agree with you. It is definitely not true.
Just do a little research, and there's a gentleman, and he has an organization, and he's got like dozens of military people, including like generals, who have seen things. So
They just don't want to talk about it.
not only that, but these beings, they will talk about it. Yeah, no, it's out there. I'll find you his name. But not only that, they've seen really freaky things where they've had 3 levels of failsafe on a silo that were then disabled.
Wow.
When they saw, yeah. Oh God, you should see if you can get this guy on your show. I will find him for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible, and they didn't know what to do. They saw something and they said something, but the controls over the silo were just disabled. And I'm not talking about a farmer who's got a fuzzy picture of a paper, of a paper plate. I'm talking about military brass. I'm talking about,
Pucker
rock.
Factor 10 things going on that makes them scared.
I'm talking about square-jawed American aviators. God damn it.
Exactly. That's right. The best and the brightest. We got to run a break. When we come back, more Jonathan Berman, more Calling All Earthlings. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So Daddy's little girl thinks she's going to prom tonight with some punk who calls himself Snake.
Yeah, they grow up so fast.
Well, not if I can help it, they don't.
Okay, here's what you do. When that kid shows up, Dad's going to be doing a few chores around the house.
Huh?
It doesn't matter the chore. What's important is that it requires the use of a 60cc gas-powered chainsaw and possibly a mask.
I think it's showtime.
He's here. Dad, I want you to meet...
All right, let her rip.
What's that, honey? Hi, Snake. Great to meet you. Wait, where are you going?
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olson.
And tonight we're talking about filmmaker Jonathan Berman. He's got this great film. It's been out there a little while, so if you haven't seen it, shame on you. Calling All Earthlings, chronicling George Van Tassel living in the desert, making contact, and the people that are now to this day living out there that believe, and they really do believe, and they made me believe, and I already did believe, it didn't take much, but aliens have visited us and they are in contact with us. So, Jonathan, when you make this film, did you find yourself ever stepping back and going, holy crap, there's a lot to absorb here? Or were you really all hands on deck and you're right there and able to really fall into it, really become one of that community?
I was, like I said, I was a Deadhead. I still like listening to the Dead and playing music. And I was an alternative kind of guy. Like, people will mention TV shows from the last, from 1980 to 2010, and I'll be like, nope, never saw it because I was out there being with people, playing music, and so Joshua Tree is a wonderful area. It's becoming more popular. I seem to catch these areas and then bring the people, although people were already coming. So I felt very at home there. And in fact, when I went out to premiere the film in the fall, because we played theatrically in the summer and then in theaters, and then now we're on Amazon and iTunes and places like that. But I was falling into the world there. And when I went out there recently, I was like, oh, I do love it here because people aren't dicks. Nice.
Yeah. And they don't have cell phones.
And there's no dicks in L.A., That's
no,
not one.
That's the most dickless place ever.
Yeah. Okay.
It actually brings up a question. So, was there already some form of alternative community there, or did he literally start it? Describe what he would have found out there at the time, and then perhaps tell people what it's like now, and what role did George have in the development of that? Because it sounds like he was pretty instrumental in establishing that area and kind of helped putting it on the map, literally. So much so, for example, like I said earlier, that they've been holding the Contact in the Desert event out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, there was a thing where you could homestead out there. They'd give you a little shack and some land, especially if you were a veteran, and you could go live in the desert. So what you had out there were the indigenous people, American Indian, different bands, tribes, and you had veterans, and you had jackrabbits and coyotes and other animals, and it was pretty and some of the original American pioneer types, maybe some of the. So George came out there. It was really, it's still pretty remote, but it was really there was nothing going on, and he meets Solganda. They start building this dome. He's like Tom Sawyer. He's getting all his neighbors involved. Bringing everybody in to help build it, because he's like, we'll cut out the middleman. We'll just do it ourselves. Also trying to raise funds and stuff. A bunch of people, aviators, would fly their planes to the Giant Rock Airport, which was basically, a strip of land next to the rock. And they would have fun. And they met George, and they're like L.A. playboys. And they're like, wait, you can make me live 35 or 30% longer? We'll help you, George. So,
yeah.
So there was no town. This is, again, it's really, I don't know about you, but I'm part librarian. I think librarians are the sexiest and the best. And I was an archivist, a professional archivist for a while. And so digging deep, I saw that a bunch of these guys, and they were guys, decided to form the town of Landers because Landers himself couldn't make it that day. So as a joke, they named it after him. So they formed the town. And people, people lived around there, and more people came in hopes that George would complete the dome, which he worked on for years and years. It was always like, okay, we need one more thing.
Yeah, it was an ongoing project is what it was.
People started coming. And in fact, how do you fund a scientific project? By the way, to buttress his case maybe a little bit, he wasn't like it was all closed off. It was a closed off lab. Now you can go visit it and do a little sound bath and get your sound bath on. But back then it was a closed off lab. George was taking the according to him, taking the work of the extraterrestrials and mixing it with the work of Tesla and two other Georges, George Lakhovsky and who was the third George? Oh my God, I'm blanking. George Lakhovsky, who was involved in cells, the idea that cells could be like batteries. And then George Creel, okay? So these are a little more obscure scientists. George Creel did the first blood transfusion, so he was no airy-fairy dude,
Yeah, smart guys, real smart guys that believed in what he was doing.
And George himself, didn't necessarily, he wasn't like a PhD or anything. He was really from the school of a good old American damn it, I'm going to build this myself, you know, with this help, allegedly.
Yeah, and how far did he get in his lifetime?
How far did he get?
Yeah, George, with the project. Building it.
They got pretty close, you know, and, well, you know, you have to see the film to see what happens. But let's just say when you're working with Tesla currents, using DC energy with a spark gap and taking, you know, regular current and, you know, what we used to call them film tying in. That's when you tie into the power grid, and then you're turning that into this massive 50,000 watt spark gap. You could possibly blow out the entire western seaboard.
Wow!
So the government was interested in him maybe for that reason, but they were also interested in him because George, if you look up in 1952, even before this, he channeled that aliens would or extraterrestrials would take their craft and fly them over Washington, D.C. And the Washington flap, as it's called, like a flap, I guess is like a brouhaha, you know, an event, is still to this day never been really explained. They literally, so someone in the film says, well, they don't fly over Washington, D.C., which, you know, it didn't work in the editing, but actually they did, you know, seemingly.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of military people, a lot of press people saw it, and a real explanation was never offered.
See, I read his book. I rode a flying saucer.
Oh, you did?
I have years ago, and that was,
great.
I believe that was in that book.
So I guess my point is, George was being watched by people, and the FBI for sure. At the same time, they're having their original Burning Man. You know, he's bringing people. It's the first saucer conventions. No internet, right? No phone lines even getting in there to their ranch. But he was bringing people out to the desert for fun and to hang out and talk about their experiences. Kind of like Burning Man meets an encounter group for UFO.
Yeah, he did the Giant Rock Starcraft conventions, if I'm not mistaken, way back in the day.
Right.
Okay, so he was ahead of his time, way ahead of his time.
Absolutely. You know, also ahead of its time. I mean, I think I'm probably more than anything kind of a visual anthropologist, and ahead of his time in taking people out of their homes in the you know, very straight-laced 1950s, and all of a sudden you're not like on, I don't know what the stuff they were taking, Seconal, whatever, some kind of like sedative the housewives were taking.
Sure.
And everybody's medicated, and everybody's got their 2.3 kids and their ranch house, and he took them out of that and brought them together in the desert under the stars, and that could be a threat.
No more running to the shelter of Mother's Little Helper.
Ooh, nice. Exactly.
You know, and had this been the 60s, he would have just been looked at as just another counterculture person. Like, oh, really? Another group of them in the desert kind of thing going on. So in the 50s, he really was a standout, especially in the 1950s.
And the COINTEL program arguably started around this event, which later went on to harass and spy on a lot of the events around racial relations and other other counter governmental activities.
Well, and George was fairly young when he passed away too, in 1978 passed away. And there's some people say there's some really strange circumstances around that as well.
Well, again, you know, the Rashomon story.
Yeah.
You know, he was, as it's told, he was on his way to an interview and about to turn on the dome, finally, and he died. Yeah,
they couldn't allow that dome to come on. That's what it was.
That's what you will hear. Yeah. I mean, certainly, if let's say he really was up to something that really would work, certainly would be a problem for American industry to have, because the dome, beyond It was a little bit of a dome of all trades. It could also not dome, one. What would you call it? A Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
It would also act as a way of creating unlimited energy.
Sure, and Tesla ran into trouble with Hearst forget the guy's name.
Westinghouse.
Westinghouse. With the idea of giving away free energy over the air. All you need was an antenna.
Right, and that transmission of energy via wireless energy is now bearing fruit, I think. Finally.
Yeah. Well, it's right up there, the internal combustion engine. I mean, these old archaic technologies are only kept in vogue now because the money that is made. Once that is all wiped away, they can't allow that to happen. Those industries will not allow that to happen.
Unless they get into the next industry.
Find a way. Very true. Very true.
Find a way to put a meter on it, right?
Yeah.
I really miss my ice deliveries. That's what I'm thinking we need to get back to because, I'm not going to say anything about the current government heading in atavistic directions, coal, et cetera. But, I mean, there are always countervailing forces. That is for sure. So is it serious and not just, conspiracy theory? Let's put it on you, Jonathan. Do you consider it plausible that he was killed to suppress whatever he had been able to develop over the years and what he had conveyed from his alien pals?
You know what? I think it's plausible. Certainly people are killed by the government, whether we like it or not, in this country and outside this country. It happens. It's like, just go to the case files of various agencies from the U.S. They're all there. Freedom of Information Act, God bless it, which I used to uncover George's files, which also, if you sign up on our website, I will happily send you the free. Our website is callingallearthlingsmovie.com. And, we keep you up to date on what's happening with the film and various other events. But there's an amazing 60-page report on Van Tassel and what he was up to. So it is very possible people are killed by the government. However, I would like to look at the world as a place of creation and not conspiracy, because in a mindset that I choose to adapt as a kind of existentialist, not of the negative kind of just like freedom of choice. Mm-hmm. I'd rather say we have freedom of choice. That's just the framework I want to live under. So I don't want to live. This is a long answer. I apologize, but I don't want to live under a conspiracy shield. Like, man, I would have gone and worked out today, but the man got
I could have been a contender. I could have been a contender.
So it's not like the man isn't doing things. They are.
Yeah,
and it is possible. Yeah. However, some might say that George, died from the ultimate freedom of California. French fries and pie and milkshakes.
Very well could have been that as well. Now, you making this movie, though, and being outspoken, have you ever gained the ire of the man?
Let me ask my handlers. Hold on. No, I think... Well, my next project is a TV series that's going to deal more with this, but I think there are some plans in place, to look at the government as a one-sided thing doesn't make sense. There are factions of the government that, and it's documented, that want to encourage the Aquarian kind of mindset.
Sure.
Because if you want the planet to keep going, you want cooperation. Darwinian industrialism is not going to keep the planet going into the 21st. Well, we're in the 21st. Okay, 22nd century. Mm-hmm. So there is some encouragement, and actually, there was a lot of funding of various counterculture movements.
Yeah,
isn't that weird? Like your hippies and your. Not every hippie, but
Oh yeah, the government learned early on how to exploit certain cultures, and it would not surprise me at all if there was some funding and some helping that along, or outside in.
However, in this case, I think it was it was before they. That was later. That was more in the 70s when they realized, oh, okay, a little more progressive. Of course, I'm sure. So I guess my point is, there's factions in the government that are fighting each other. But at this point, I think it was.
I agree with that.
Right?
I think you're right about that, because they are just people. Let's face it.
Yeah.
And you have the more entrenched elements who are, the deep state, who are actually, I think, a lot more progressive, and who, in general, and who are looking to the future, and who are concerned about where we end up. Then you have the highest level, which is all where the politics is, and people concerned more than anything about getting elected and about using division, to stay in power. And including things that just don't make a whole lot of sense at all, and certainly don't make sense for the future. I think we really are. You mentioned the Aquarian phase, and technically, I guess we're still in it, right? But I think we're really in a new. When I see my kids, I have a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old, and I got two older. I get two in their 30s too.
Yeah. Wow.
But their attitudes and how they interact, and they're not perfect human beings by any means, but they just don't have a lot of the same prejudices. They may have other ones, but they don't have the same ones that older people, or some older people, do. And I think we really are in the middle of kind of a paradigm shift. And I think what's going on right now at the upper levels of government is one of these, retro action, rear guard actions. I think if anything, it actually is the exception that proves the rule, or at least I hope so. So, I mean, the timing of the film is actually quite amazing, because you're documenting an era and the evolution of a scene that really is actually quite applicable to where we are now. And some of the things that he went through in the, from the 40s on, we're seeing at a much higher and much broader level going on now. Don't you think? Didn't you see parallels to what's happening now?
I do. The Aquarian age, I think that George was ushering in. I wouldn't say it was squashed exactly, but I don't think it caught on quite in the way that we would have hoped. Look at the pollution and George talked about this. He talked about cattle dying in Wyoming, and because of the nuclear tests. And I don't think we really got to that. I think the problem is the Mr. Burns motherfuckers. Oops, can I say that?
Well, you just did.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Like your real high and mighty folks, and the problem is, again, when you get into conspiracy stuff, it gets all weird, and people get, there's like hidden anti-Semitism and racism, even in the UFO community, like the whole White Brotherhood thing.
Yeah, but at its heart, a lot of ufology is conspiracy.
True.
And at its heart, because there's always the staunch ufologists that we've had on the show that have told us many times that the government does not want the big brothers or cousins from other planets coming down and touching on a White House lawn, because that would make them powerless that moment. People would realize there's more than just this, and they cannot allow that to happen.
Right, and the lore is that Eisenhower was going to the dentist in Palm Springs, which is really one of the best places to get your teeth checked, and was not going to the dentist in Palm Springs. He was going to meet the various factions of the aliens, and then they made a secret deal. That's the lore. I wasn't there, so I can't tell you. But and that it would make sense that there would be some kind of agreement, and like, you run the U.S. and the world, and don't mess it up too much, and we'll you can keep us hidden for now.
Yeah, or as long as they want to keep hidden. Because at some point, because there's been a big uptick in sightings over the last 20 years, huge amount of sightings.
Is that right? Do you think there's more now?
I do. I even saw one. I mean, you know,
I think they're
times.
reported. I don't know if there are more sightings or if they're reported more.
Well,
there's always that.
I
There's
think
always
that could be that too, because
Maybe
everyone's
so.
everyone's got a cell phone camera now. Everyone's got documentation instruments at their fingertips that can document in real time. So that could be it too.
There's more people.
Yeah, that too.
And the stigma is less. The stigma is not what it
Stigma's
is.
less, and people are connected to. We're our own distributors now. Someone could put out student could put out a message. I have a student has millions of followers, on Twitter. It's just it happens. So
we're all journalists now in some fashion or form.
The question is from the point of view of George Van Tassel and his hope for this Aquarian age, where he says, like, the planet doesn't need to stop at a gas station. It just spins around and around. So why do we? I love the folk wisdom of that, So, you could talk to someone like Joe Rogan and he'll say, this is the best time ever,
Well, I'm not sure I quite agree with that, but hey,
And other people would say that the amount of war people dying or less. I'm not sure that's true. That our technology is amazing. You don't have to send a fax over like a 3-day period, like when it first started, to send one page of paper. That we are utilizing our resources better, maybe with this Uber, although that's a whole nother issue of class and that we can't get into right now. But it's an odd thing, the whole Uber thing. But that we're doing like a different. We're living in a different way now, and I hope that some of the ideas of the Dome and George, spread out further and further. It's worth visiting. It's worth reading about, and I would like the technology to be restarted. I would do the sequel. If someone can restart the Dome, we'll do the sequel.
I was going to ask you, why has nobody stepped up and said, I'm going to, although there were people in that community that were more than willing to keep working on it and they'd said so much, but why has no one stepped up and said, you know what, let's get this thing funded. Let's see what this thing truly can do. I mean, it just seems odd to just let it sit there. Almost a derelict symbol of a better time. Some would say a better time.
Well, I would look at it more poetically. It's a symbol of freedom and choice. You don't have to live in the big city and breathe in soot. You can go live under the stars and create your life and live in peace and not trample on your fellow man and not hog all the resources, and you could have fun and you could live under the stars and commune with whatever you're communing with, and reconnect with the spirit of the Ship of Fools.
Yeah, be who you are.
Yeah, not fools like idiot, like fools like the wise who are connected to the spirit world. Yeah.
Sure. There's a lot of freedom in that.
Hold on, my Ouija board's about to tell you guys something.
All right.
Okay. So it's saying, thank you so much for having us on the show.
Well,
the pleasure is all ours. Super quick. We only have a couple minutes here. Have you ever had a paranormal experience?
Well, that's just it. It's there are radio waves. We know that because we listen to radio. Some of us still do. There are light waves, right? Sound waves. They're all here. So why aren't there ethereal waves? I have had an experience, and it wasn't that weird. Now,
oh really?
If I went to, there's an event that they do right here in L.A. It's kind of this great meetup. And people were pointing to these in the sky. It was the middle of the day. This was during the summer. And I had never seen anything. I'm like, oh, no, bunch of loonies. Because I am a skeptic, too, as well as a believer. That's the challenge in being able to hold 2 points of view. I think there's something to be said for that. But and I looked up, and I saw some unidentified craft. And I was like, wow. And it wasn't that weird. Just like, oh yeah, there they are.
Yeah. Hey guys, what you doing up there? Yeah, I saw UFOs a couple times. One of them, oddly enough, was on a Bigfoot hunt.
Yes, I can't wait to listen to your Bigfoot episode. Do you talk about it on there?
No, I don't. Another episode I do, though. There's another episode because I went out after we had the Bigfoot guys on. I actually, decided to put my money where my mouth was and actually went out looking for Bigfoot. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of strange things. But while we were looking for Bigfoot, they're listening for Bigfoot. I'm looking at the skies. I'm going, what the hell is that? And they all looked up. And there was a craft with 30 different types of lights on it, just flickering at us.
Really?
And I used my flashlight, kind of like the guy in Fire in the Sky, or maybe I should have done that because Travis Walton, he got taken.
Sure.
But I tried to communicate, and it flashed back at me in that same code. Odd story, my friend. Odd story. We got to get out of here, but until next time, everyone take care of each other, love each other. Make sure you check out Calling All Earthlings by our good friend here, our new good friend that just made possibly one of the coolest shows.
Co-host.
That's right, Jonathan Berman. Check it out. It's everywhere you find videos. Stream it now. Have a lot of fun. Come up with your own conclusions. After Hours AM is a production of Midwest Radio Productions. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And please visit www.americas-most-haunted.com.